A few weeks ago, I was at my local game store when I saw this. A late print-run copy of Modern Warfare 2 that has the newer style of PlayStation 3 branding. I'd never seen a copy like this. I'm one of the few that actually likes DualShock 3, so I picked it up for a whopping $3. Later that night, I got to relive the nostalgia of starting Modern Warfare 2 fresh, from level 1. All seemed normal, and a couple hours later, I shut down for the night. But when I returned the next day, I was greeted by a complete loss of progress. I had been reset to level 1 and all of my unlocks and stats from the night before were missing. After a bit of research, I learned that Sony broke Modern Warfare 2's account system back in 2019 when they introduced the ability to change your PSN username. All accounts created after this point in time, as well as any older account that has utilized their one free name change, are now completely locked out of saving their unlocks and stats. This is unfortunate, but not all that unexpected. Players are warned of this possibility when they go through the process of changing their screen name, but there is a larger, more serious issue here. Activision still sells Modern Warfare 2 on the PlayStation Store, without any sort of disclaimer, meaning that someone with no way of knowing better could buy this game to relive their nostalgia, only to discover they are completely locked out of multiplayer progression. The fact that Activision are still allowed to sell games that outright don't work if you use Sony's official name change program is absolutely ludicrous. And I suspect that anyone unfortunate enough to run into this problem would have a hard time convincing Sony they deserved a refund. But I'd soon discover that Modern Warfare 2 is far from the only Call of Duty game with playability issues on PlayStation 3. As it turns out, it's actually one of the least broken. So that raises a question. Of the classic Call of Duty games, which are still playable as they should be, can issues be worked around, or are some of these games outright dead? After another trip to the store, I'm ready to find out. But first, shop talk. This video is going to focus on the golden age of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 through Black Ops 2. I will also only be focusing on the PS3 versions. I've already mentioned most of the PC-related issues in another video, and the 360 games are almost all still functioning as intended, with rare exceptions I'll get into as we go. Seeing as Modern Warfare is the oldest game on this list, one might also expect it to be the least functional, especially given that its engine and networking were the backbone of the franchise for the entirety of the 7th generation. But I was delighted to discover that Call of Duty 4 still works as intended on the account front. I'd only played 1 or 2 rounds of COD 4 on PS3 back in 2017, but when I logged in, the little progress I'd made was right there waiting for me. This is despite getting a name change and a new PS3, so I feel safe saying that pretty much anyone's Modern Warfare save data is safe and sound for now. But it's not that simple. Yes, you can play Call of Duty 4 for the PS3 online, but whether or not you'd actually want to is a different story. Modded lobbies and cheaters are not new problems, but as player counts steadily diminish, they become larger ones. Modded lobbies are already a sizable problem in the 360 version of Modern Warfare, and that's even after an infusion of players due to Xbox One backwards compatibility. On PS3, where modding is easier and the only way to play the game is on original hardware, cheaters are absolutely unavoidable. I searched Team Deathmatch, and the first mode I got into was Domination, and the next round forced everyone to spawn with snipers. Sick of this, I backed out and searched for another game, and managed to find a vanilla lobby. So I searched again, found the original modded lobby, and resigned myself to being at the mercy of script kiddies. Except, they'd turned the matchmaking lobby into a private lobby, one that only they could start. So I sat there for close to 15 minutes watching players leave and rejoin a lobby that never turned into an actual game. And of course, I couldn't find another match myself either. It kept throwing me back into the circus with these clowns. Look, Modern Warfare is technically still playable. But is it? If the abilities not only play a decent match of the game, but to play it at all, depends on some random assholes say so, I don't think it's even worth going back to. Go play the PC version or the remaster. Fresh off my interesting experience with Modern Warfare, I was expecting World at War to be the exact same story. Under the historic Code of Paint, World at War is basically identical to Modern Warfare in terms of technology. Logically, it would have the same cheating issues as Modern Warfare, but to my pleasant surprise, World at War gave me the best online experience out of all of these games. I never played World at War on PS3, but even in 2021, it worked out of the box. I consistently found populated, unmodified lobbies, and my progress saved as it should have, and the only snag I hit was not having a DLC map that my first lobby loaded into. It's odd that World at War on PS3 is so playable, because in my experience, the Xbox player base is sparse at best and rife with hackers at worst. Maybe I've just gotten extremely lucky, but judging by my time with this version, it's still a decent way to play. Now, I already detailed my experience with Modern Warfare 2 at the top of the show, but there's one thing I left out. Modding. PS3s are significantly easier to modify than Xbox 360s. The original Xbox's rampant piracy problem meant that Microsoft devoted incredible amounts of time and resources to making its successor unhackable. They, of course, failed, but at the very least, modifying a 360 requires significantly more skill and effort. It involves soldering, which is beyond the scope of my monkey brain's abilities, so I paid someone to do it instead. The PS3, on the other hand, can be modified with nothing but USB sticks and a few minutes of spare time. In theory, this means cheaters on PS3 would be more common, and I think they are? I'm not entirely sure, but if you absolutely cannot stand playing against modders, that's something to keep in mind, even if your account is free of the progression bug. I really can't recommend Modern Warfare 2 for either console. MW2 may be on its last legs, but we do have at least some preservation options. I'd suggest IW4X for PC instead. It's free, much more populated, and has server admins to ban cheaters instead of waiting for a ban wave. Oh, and for the 3 people wondering, Call of Duty Classic still works, but good luck finding anyone to play it with. Despite releasing a year after Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops is not based on the newer IW4 engine, likely due to the dev cycle beginning long before its completion. Instead, Black Ops runs on a modified version of IW3, just like World at War. This did give me hope that Black Ops would be fully functional, and at first all seemed well. Matches were populated, I didn't see any cheaters, but upon restarting the game, same issue as Modern Warfare 2. Which is seriously unfortunate, because Black Ops really is a complete blast, even to this day. But it is the game where Treyarch really started to flesh out leveling and prestige. And this issue means that PS3 owners won't ever be able to experience it again. The Xbox version, on the other hand, does not have this issue, and while I have heard whispers of Xbox One players having issues finding games, I've not been able to reproduce this myself. The PC version is also still going strong, thanks to a server browser, but the sticker price means all but the most dedicated fans should steer clear. Just play it on 360.
All warfare is
It doesn't work. At all. Sony still sells this game for $40, a whopping 15 times its actual value. But if you fall into any of these groups, you can't play the game online. You can search for matches, but if you try and join one, you're hit with an error message saying you can't connect to Activision's servers, and as far as I can tell, there's no way to circumvent this. Even if your account is old and you've never changed your name, if you didn't play Modern Warfare 3 prior to 2019, you never can. Spec Ops still works and even saves data, but Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer is dead in the water. This is perhaps the most egregious problem yet. Activision should patch Black Ops and Modern Warfare 2, but I understand why they haven't. It's game-breaking, but it still kind of works. But with Modern Warfare 3, they are selling a game and DLC for said game that the vast majority of customers straight up cannot play online, with no mention of that fact on the PlayStation Store. I know full well that corporations will put profit first, but come the fuck on. This is just flagrant disregard for customer satisfaction, and it's disgusting. Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer is currently more playable on the fucking Nintendo DS than the PS3, and at least there, you'll never pay more than $10 or $15. I wish I could say the worst is behind us, but it's not. Black Ops 2 is the most universally loved Call of Duty title. I don't think anyone dislikes it. I needed PS3 copies of both Black Ops games for this video, and found it was actually cheaper to buy the whole trilogy in a box set, meaning I now own another copy of this monstrosity. But hey, I like Black Ops 2, I like the PS3 controller, and I like box sets. This seems like a decent enough purchase, so let's pop it in. This game, which Sony still sells on their official store for no less than $50, crashes your fucking PS3 every time without fail. I was ready to drive back to my local store and have them give me another disc when I thought to try signing out of PSN, and sure enough, it boots right up. but try to play multiplayer or zombies and the console will once again crash hard. And I don't even mean back to the dashboard, I mean you have to hold the power button and let the PS3 run a self-check to make sure it's not broken. A forum thread from a few years back gave me the only troubleshooting tip that could possibly save Black Ops 2 multiplayer. This works for zombies too, but unfortunately you'll still have to play Call of Duty Zombies, and personally I think watching the PS3 self-test is more fun. But to each their own. Okay, so here's what you do. Sign out of PSN, launch Black Ops 2, open the multiplayer mode, go to local play, start a match, load in and spawn, press the PlayStation button, sign back into PSN, close the XMB, quit the local match, go to matchmaking, hop on one foot, sacrifice a newborn, and send Bobby Kotick a picture of your bare ass. Then and only then may you play your $50 video game, if you're lucky. Once again, the Nintendo version of a game is easier to play online than a core version. It's currently easier to kill someone with a Wii remote than a DualShock 3. Activision. This isn't acceptable. You can't just sell a full-price product that doesn't fucking work, let alone one that hard crashes systems and risks corrupting their hard drives. If this game had bizarre issues that caused a kernel panic, it would be different. But Black Ops 2 straight up cannot be played, not even the single-player campaign, if you didn't play it years ago, or if you used an official PSN feature that also costs money. Charging $50 for a $15 game is bad enough, but this is downright evil. Activision, we know you exist as little more than a way for Bobby Kotick to pat his wallet and tip cam girls, but for the love of God, at least be subtle about it. And Sony, you may have some questionable practices, but you've proven you have at least some integrity. Don't let this happen on your platform. Come on, please, you and I both know there is some way to fix this. And in all likelihood, it's incredibly simple. But even if that's too much, a fucking disclaimer on the store page is a more than reasonable expectation. Come the fuck on. I'm not advocating for these games to be delisted. I'm calling on Activision to fix them of their own accord, or for Sony to make them. What's happening to Call of Duty for PS3 right now has happened before, and very well might happen to any game in the future, regardless of platform. We all might wake up one day and find that an entire generation of games has disappeared. Maybe one day Xbox Live for 360 will shut down, or Activision will pull the plug on services that keep their later games going. After all, the very same thing is scheduled to happen to Halo 3, 4, and Reach later this year. As a preservationist, that hurts my heart. Not only because unknowing consumers are buying games they can't actually play, but because Call of Duty is a huge part of late 2000s and early 2010s culture. During this golden era, the Call of Duty franchise was ubiquitous and it permanently changed the way games are developed. But we're only one flip switch away from future generations of gamers never being able to play them firsthand and find out why. This video was conceived as a stopgap, but as it turns out, I'll likely need another for next week. I'm working on something pretty big and exciting, and while I am pushing it back, I do have a good reason. I'm going to be able to interview someone very, very special next week. I also have other good news to share soon, but for now, I've got Q&A questions to answer. Are smaller games the future, or is there still place for giant worlds and experiences? I think there's room for both. AAA projects push technology to its limits and provide the public with a general sense of what the medium is up to these days. But AAA refers not only to scale, but also to budget. When millions of dollars are on the line, risk-taking isn't nearly as practical, but there is more to it than that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, and if I had time, I could list off so many games that would have been better off with a smaller budget. But that's something I'll save for an eventual video. What arcade machine would you buy given the space? Part of me wants to say Ferrari F355 Challenge, because that cabinet is so cool, but it'd either be Outrun 2 or Time Crisis 4. Mark my words, I will have a basement arcade one day. What is your McDonald's order? 10-piece McNuggets and fries. If I'm really hungry, make it 20. McDonald's and Wendy's have the best nuggets, fight me.